So have you ever wondered how weightlifting can make you a better singer? Well, stay tuned if you want to find out. We have Pierre here, who's an opera singer. Pierre, tell us about your background.
All right, my name is Pierre du Toit. I am a singer, I'm a tenor, and I have sung most venues, most big venues, most big opera houses in South Africa. I've sung in Italy, all over England and Ireland. I've sung for over 30 years. I'm also a teacher. Many of my students sing all over the world internationally. I'm also an opera director. I've directed about 12 operas and designed them. So yes, that's who I am.
I understand your fiancée as well.
Yes, she's also an opera singer, a beautiful singer, a very good singer. She has won 2 international competitions, one in Australia, the Elizabeth Cannell competition, and the other Laf Mirski in Europe. Beautiful voice. Sung all over South Africa as well. And in Germany, in Berlin actually, yes.
Pierre, so you are also currently being coached by Kathy McNamara.
That's right.
Who is the wife of Kevin McNamara.
That's right.
And Kevin McNamara was a very well-known and renowned South African bodybuilder and powerlifter. Kathy, for instance, placed 3rd in the Miss Universe in when was it, Kathy? 1986, where Kevin actually placed 4th. So both very well-renowned, lots of training experience.
I'm very happy to be here. I've learnt a lot and grown a lot. So yeah, they certainly know what they're doing. I'm very happy to be here.
So some of the things we will look at in this video, obviously a live case study with Pierre. Pierre will also give us some insight into his experience before and after his training with regards to his voice. Pierre, you'll also guide us through some of the exercises that are specifically beneficial for you and your opera singing. Then we'll also look at some of the benefits you've experienced. And then as a bonus at the end, Pierre, you'll also give us some interesting facts about Nelson Mandela and how he crossed, or some links you have.
Yes, that would be interesting. It actually ties up with Leah, but I'll explain it later.
So Pierre, how did you first make the connection between weight training and opera singing?
Well, as I was growing up, my father said to me, if you want to learn anything, go to someone who's the best in the world at what you want to learn. And that's why I went to Italy to study with a guy called Franco Correli, who's considered the best dramatic tenor ever. And later in my life, I realized that I needed also to work on my body. I did some research into how body training can affect your singing. And then I met a woman who's a dancer, and she told me about Kevin and what he had achieved and so on. And unfortunately, I never met him, but I met his wife, Kathy, who trained with him and worked with him. Being the best that we have in South Africa, I decided to come here, and I have not regretted it for 1 second.
How has your experience been with your voice before and after the training?
Okay, so I grew up being very health conscious, and therefore never being really too overweight, but the type of singing that I am doing and that I'm starting to do now at my age, I needed a little bit more strength. I needed a bit more power. Now, the voice is a very small instrument, if you think about it. 2 to 3 millimeters big, no matter whether you're a big man or a woman or whatever. So, and for opera, you don't use amplification whatsoever at all. You don't use a microphone. So you've got to create all of the sound with that little voice. So if you think about it, logically speaking, you cannot do that. It's physically impossible to make a sound, such a big sound that must carry over 60 orchestra pieces, 30 chorus members. You've got to be heard through that. So there must be a certain amount of power that is created somewhere in the instrument. So the instrument is not only the voice, it's also the body. For the body to be able to open up, to create the resonance, which is what makes the sound, it's space. So the body needs to be able to open up. And to do that, you definitely need muscle. You can do it in other ways too, unhealthy ways of being overweight, because that opens up the body, the sheer weight of the overweightness, to put it that way. But the healthier way is to work with the body, to open the body, to open the throat. You need to open the throat, and to open the throat is like when you when you yawn, the throat opens, but also the body opens. And for those muscles to be trained to be open is what the bodybuilding does, and how that can help you. So over the last year, I've experienced a lot of an enormous change in my voice in terms of ease, because the body is stronger and the body is more able to do stuff that it couldn't do before. I mean, I like to calculate every time that I've trained how much weight I've done. And, sometimes I do, accumulatively, like yesterday, I think we did 7.250 tons. That's a lot of weight. So if you do that, say 10 tons a week, that's a lot of, it strengthens the body, so that when you have to do something which is actually almost a little bit supernatural, be able to sing over all of that orchestra, over all of the chorus, into a very, very big theatre, a 3,000 seater or something, to be heard like that, you need that internal strength of the body. And that I certainly have felt with much more ease since I've trained.
That's a very interesting point. And looking at somebody like Arnold, for instance, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and the big chest he had, how does that connection maybe benefit him?
Well, you see, I don't know, anyone that thinks of Arnold Schwarzenegger and knows him from maybe the television or whatever, you'll know how you heard the voice is like, it's very deep actually. He's got a very, very deep voice. And the reason for that is the the Adam's apple, here, is where the voice is. But it has two muscles, one going down here and one going down, which connects to the chest. So the more the chest develops, the more this muscle strengthens, the more it pulls the larynx downwards, which increases the space in the throat, which makes more resonance. So a very simple way of explaining, if you look at Arnold Schwarzenegger and what he sounds like, is that even though he has had no voice training, his voice is very resonant because of what he's doing physically, or what he did physically.
So that's obviously benefited him.
Yes.
Benefited him throughout his career.
Yes. Well, it obviously benefited him also from the acting point of view, because the type of roles that he played required a certain amount of voice authority, and that comes from the body, yes.
That's a very interesting topic. I don't know if people would ever have made that sort of a connection with the voice and the actual build of your body.
Yeah, you see, it's all interconnected. The body, the breathing, the way that you breathe, the way that you control the voice. It's all got to do with what muscles you're doing, which muscles are expanding, which muscles need to stay open while you're singing. I mean, up there we've got a photo of Kevin, huge, big open back. Now, for the body to be able to do that, the lungs are expanding tremendously to be able to do that. And your voice needs that cushion of air to be able to produce that sound easily. So the bigger it becomes, the body, the easier it becomes, yes. Perhaps I should also say, looking at opera in modern society, it's important to note that people of the younger generation, when they go to watch an opera, they don't want to see a lot of very uncomfortable looking people on stage. They want to see attractive people playing a hero. So from that point of view, for both males and females, it's important that you look good, to be realistic in a character. Gone are the days where you can just sing absolutely beautifully and not look the part. You need to look the part. Now, obviously on stage you can use a lot of makeup and so on, but you can't use makeup on the body. That's going to change the look of the body. So in that way, Leah has come and she has trained here as well. And important that a woman looks good for most roles that they need to portray, especially sopranos, because they usually play the girls that fall in love and so on. So they need to look good. The mezzo sopranos are usually the mothers and so on. They can look differently. So also from a look point of view, it's important. So you must generate the power within your body from a muscular point of view, and so that you still look good but also sound good. And that's why this training benefits both male and female.
Yeah, in terms of being mobile on the stage, being overweight can be a challenge. So
yes, there's a famous singer called Placido Domingo who speaks of breathing, and he says that fat can help with breathing in the sense that the intercostal muscles, when there's a lot of fat, they are forced open, so it's opening the rib cage a little bit more with fat. Now, but that is not necessarily the healthy alternative. The better alternative is to look good, to build the muscle to open it. And being on stage and being mobile on stage is also important, because if you carry a lot of extra weight over many, many years, the stage is a very physical place to be. You need to be able to move. You need to be able to lunge or go down on your knees or whatever. And if you're carrying a lot of weight, it will eventually impact the knees and the general health. And I have had several friends who have had very successful careers but have not looked after their health in that way. And the unfortunate thing is that it shortens your life, because there is a lot of stress in this career as well, where if you don't manage that by doing something physical as well, that impacts you as well and shortens your life. Sorry to say, but that is the truth. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe some of the benefits one can look at. Exercise being good for stress.
Yes, good for stress, good for, for example, for me personally, I am now entering into a different phase where I will sing things that require an enormous amount of stamina, where a normal opera, so I'm speaking specifically about singing Wagner, which is huge, big opera, even bigger orchestras, and but also where a normal opera role in total, if you just count the music, it's about 20 minutes. But if you look at a Wagner role, it goes to at least maybe an hour and 20 minutes of physically singing. So the stamina requirement is much more. So if you're physically training, obviously you're going to increase stamina as well. And that's very important. Also in today's singing world, now you're in this country, then you fly to this country. Then you're there for a couple of days, you do a performance, maybe 6 performances in 2 weeks or whatever, fly off to another place. That's an exhausting type of lifestyle. If you don't have something that is going to regenerate the body and help you, it's going to take a very heavy toll on you. So it's important, yes.
How do you find the total body awareness? Do you see benefits?
Yes, because I also teach, I actually teach a lot of body awareness. You see, the thing is, have you ever listened to your voice on a recording and you say, oh, that's not what I sound like. Do I really sound like that? I think that's something that most people can identify with. The reason for that is that you don't hear your voice as other people hear your voice. Because your voice is connected to your body, it vibrates along the bones, and you're hearing a certain amount of vibration from the body as well. So you're not hearing like other people are hearing. But that is also a good thing for a singer to know, that certain vibration, if you feel vibration in the chest and you can feel vibration in the head when you speak, those are secondary resonances that you will use to know where you are and how good you are, how well you are singing. So body awareness is very, very important. So, and body awareness, for example, let me, when you do a semi-squat while singing, say you put your back up against the wall and you squat down. Usually I put a ball behind their back and you squat down like this. This increases the feeling of the muscle here being relaxed, being down. And that helps you to breathe in the correct way and to feel, as you're saying, relaxed. It's not really relaxed because there is muscle tension, but if you need to learn that is the way that it needs to go. So gym training can help you become more aware of where the muscle is, and then if you then apply it to the singing as well, as to what muscle you are actually using to bring the breathing under control. Yeah.
So it sounds like core strength can be really
core strength is important, very much so, but also controlled core strength. When you contract a muscle, there's also an elongation that always happens. It's contraction and elongation. So the same thing with what people must learn in singing is that it's not all contraction. Just contracting the muscle like this for singing is not going to work because it's going to stiffen you. So you must be able to do the opposite, also outwards pressure instead of just inwards pressure. Because if you just have inward pressure, you are increasing the force with which the air is coming out. So you're losing control, it's just going to out. Whereas if outwards, you've got better control and keeping it more open. It's a difficult thing to learn because it's counterintuitive. It's not what you would normally do. Yeah, but so you must be very aware of what you're physically doing to be able to sing well, because you can't always hear. What I mean by that is sometimes an acoustic is very bad. You can't hear what you're doing. So then you must feel what you're doing. Obviously you can hear, but you can't hear as easily as if it was a right, beautiful, like dome effect acoustic. Yeah, so physical awareness is very, very important, yes.
And obviously with the training, you're stimulating the nerves, so there's a better brain-body connection. I'm sure you find a better...
Yes, that's true too. The goal with singing is to be able to stand and sing and look as though you're doing nothing. And that is not really true. You are doing something. But you must also find the balance of how much you need to do, and how, you know, if you do too much, you're going to become stiff and the voice is not going to work. But you do need the strength, and that's again where I come to why strength training is important. Because if you can just rely on what you have built in the gym, it makes it far easier, because then you just know that the internal muscle that you have built is going to kick in. You don't have to be so aware of it the whole time, because it's already there.
The other benefit, I would assume, is posture.
Yes, posture is very, very important actually, for several reasons. The first reason is actually when the sternum goes down, immediately all of the ribs close. You can feel it if you do that, and if you do that, you can feel that here there's more of an opening. So that's one of the reasons. As soon as you do that, your breathing apparatus, your opening here is not maximized and cannot be maximized. So very, very important. The second important thing is when you are lifting the sternum, you must remember that the vocal cords or the larynx is attached with two muscles to here. If you have this up, then you have this freedom of movement here in the throat. So it's very, very important. And as you develop these muscles, of course, it becomes stronger and easier to do. So from that, okay, and then of course your posture also helps, that your throat doesn't, your head doesn't do that, but you do that, which also keeps it open, because remember you have two sets of resonances which the singer uses, which is the chest and the head resonance. If you do this, you cut off the resonance from going there. Now you're open, now you can feel the resonance there. If you do that, you can feel, even when you're speaking, there's less resonance now in my head. When I'm doing that, you can feel it right up, but there's the vibration. So yes, very, very, very important on many, many levels. In fact, a singer, even that, doing that helps, because it opens up here and opens up. So you'll see many singers when they sing high notes, especially tenors, they go, you know, because it's all part of it to open up. Okay. Yeah. Mm.
And then I'm also assuming if you feel stronger, you look better, you're also more confident on stage, less stressed out on stage.
Yes. One of the major things that people struggle with is that stress that comes. Now, stress can manifest in the body, specifically in the area where it's most important to a singer, which is the breath. If you become tight and it's not easy to control the breathing then. So if you know how to breathe, and if you have trained the muscles specifically, once again, to open up, you can actually beforehand sit down and open up the breathing, which will help with the stress response, because the deeper you breathe, the calmer you will become. Yeah.
Something you want to add?
Yeah, perhaps I just want to say that people, you know, the typical picture of an opera singer, for most people in their minds, as soon as they think about an opera singer, they think about some big fat guy, or you know, yes, a big fat guy, or they think about a woman with, you know, these horns and a big, you know, body and so on. But that is not necessarily true. As I've said previously, you know, Leah, for example, is tall and not fat at all. And That's where the body awareness comes in again. As you train, you become more aware of what the body can do and where the muscles are that are going to control that. Whereas someone with more body, which is not necessarily muscle, does not have to think of that much, because already the muscle, the body is being pulled outwards. Whereas with muscle, you have got, in the end, with muscle, you will have more control. More control.
Okay. Maybe it's time we put this into practice, and let's move over to some of the exercises, Pierre, and then you can show us what you have in a typical routine and what to take note of.
Well, I think in terms of the typical routine is a whole body thing. Obviously, you cannot just develop a certain part of the body. You have to develop the entire thing so that it's in balance. But we can show perhaps what is more beneficial towards breathing and things like that, yes.
Okay, and maybe just emphasize that you also, through Kathy's coaching, you're actually doing heavy duty training as such.
Yes, I have never done heavy duty training until I came to Kathy, but I realized that this is the benefit that I need to do. So I wouldn't recommend anyone to necessarily do it without guidance either, from my perspective. Yeah.
Absolutely, but
Yeah.
at least we've got Kathy here.
Yes.
Myself, I've been trained by Kevin, so we learned a lot from there, and yeah.
Yeah, I think that's important, that one draws on experience and draws on what people have achieved, and go with that. You know, people might think, for example, you know, you really have to work every day for a couple of hours and so on. And what I have learned, that's not true. You need to do short bursts of very heavy training and then rest so that growth can take place. That's one of the main takeaways, I would say, which people don't realize. Okay, so here we are on a leg press machine. I'm not going to do a lot of weight now. I just want to show you something that's quite important, and that is that you, as you can see here, I've added a little bench here and some padding here. And the reason for that is you want to keep your body aligned. You want to keep your neck straight. You don't want to do this, or you don't want to do this either, because that's putting unnecessary stress in the wrong place, which might hurt you, especially if you're a singer. You don't want to do this because you're going to tighten here, and you don't want to do this because you're going to tighten there. So you've got to keep it nice and flat. So when you engage here, make sure, you can hold on here if you like, but make sure that you are not pulling up here in any formal way, that this is remaining calm, so that you're engaging the muscle here that you don't, and not doing this, because if you do this, you're going to hurt here, which is going to be bad for the singing. Also, as you do this, of course, as we be careful, breathe out when you're doing this, because if you're not, you're closing the vocal cords, stopping and putting pressure against them, which you don't want. So you're going to go out. You don't have to do that, but I'm just as a demonstration. Okay, here we have a pullover machine. Now, as a singer, I would not suggest you use this one necessarily, unless you have built a lot of strength and you know that you can keep your posture properly, because when you're pulling it up like this and you're doing this with the neck, that's not going to be beneficial for a singer. So maybe if you start with a very lightweight, that could work, but keeping the posture correct. So But a safer way for a singer would probably be to do the pullover on the flat bench here. So this, I'm also not going to do heavy weight now because I'm just demonstrating. But this is very good for opening up the rib cage and for the breathing, basically. As I explained, not on the other machine, rather on this one, because it's going to give you a far better effect. So make sure that you use, well, let me just move up a little bit, there we go, that you make a good movement, a good solid movement right down and up. And it needs to go right down. You need to do a full movement. It doesn't help if you're doing a very heavy weight but you're not doing the full movement. When you do the full movement like that, you should feel it a little bit here and in your side, which will give you the desired effect. Well, dumbbell pullover or this,
Crunch.
the crunch works here. Now this is important because you need some support in the body, and the best way to do is to feel that feel it here in the hips, actually on the sides here, because there are muscles that go up here that connect to the rib cage here, like this. So if you're using this muscle here, it's pulling the rib cage down, keeping it open here. If you do here though, that's just closing everything up. So rather on the side, so that's why the crunch is a good thing, because it's developing this muscle here, which is connecting with the ribs, keeping the breathing open. So here we're doing the crunch, which is very good for here. And that's important because the muscles, as I explained, connect from the hip up into the various ribs. So to keep the ribs open, it's important that you are strong in this part. But it's also important, once again, that you keep your let's call it your posture correct, specifically as far as the neck is concerned, that you're not going to bend it forward like this, because that's putting a pressure in the wrong place. So you need to keep the neck straight and up, and keeping the neck straight, not putting it forward, keeping it straight. Then you should feel it on the sides. On the sides, also keeping the back straight, because then you don't put any straight. What I mean with straight is slightly hollowed, you know, like this, so that it remains a good movement like that.
And that's specifically because you're singing the opera.
Specifically, you don't want to get the neck like this. Because, you know, whatever posture you assume, in my opinion, while you're training, is going to directly affect which muscles are working and which muscles are going to be developed. And you don't want to develop the muscle in the wrong way. Even if it's just a small like that, you don't want to develop it like that. You want to develop it correctly. Yeah. So, as we explained before, posture is extremely important for singing. And there's always, muscles always work in sync with one another. If there's a contraction somewhere, there's an elongation somewhere else. So, when you work a lot on developing the chest, you must also work on developing the opposite, which is the back. Otherwise, you're going to start going like this, you know, closing up. So this exercise, get in here, should be done again, keeping the head nice and straight and moving up. As you see then, it's opening, although you're using the back, it's also opening and stretching the front, which then helps with the posture. Because as we know, posture is not only healthy for you in general, but for singing it's very important. So keep it open and up. And up, like that.
Pierre, you may want to also mention your connection with Pavarotti somehow.
Oh yes. Well, I studied in Milan, in Italy, with a guy called Franco Correli. Now, Franco Correli was considered and mentioned by Pavarotti. He was older than Pavarotti and the generation before Pavarotti. But Pavarotti said of Franco Correli that he was the best dramatic tenor ever. I studied with him. And then the other connection that I have with Pavarotti is the last concert that he did in South Africa. The first one was in Stellenbosch, second one was here in Johannesburg, and he had 3 of my tenors, my students, singing with him. Wow. So yeah, that's my connection with Pavarotti.
So if you found this quite interesting and useful information, please feel free to reach out to Pierre. Pierre, I think we can include your email address, and I know at this stage your fiancée is also in Germany and she needs some funds for her accommodation and things. That side things are quite expensive, so if any of our viewers would like to reach out maybe for some sort of support financially, that would be very much appreciated. We'll put that details in the description as well. And yeah, feel free to please share this video with everyone if you're not maybe able to support financially, but just watching the video, or by watching the video and sharing it, we can maybe also reach more people, and that can also be beneficial. Pierre, tell us about Leah.
Yes, so I think we're going to include some form of singing in the video, and you'll be able to see what she sounds like and what she looks like. Remember that she is also an international winner already. But there are special circumstances surrounding the opera situation, specifically in South Africa. In South Africa, there is, you know, since 1994, there's not much, there's no support basically from the government for opera in the country. So most people in the country have to actually leave the country to be able to make a career in opera. And although Leah has sung in Cape Town and in Pretoria and in Johannesburg and all the major theatres in South Africa, like the State Theatre and the Artscape in Cape Town and so on, she needs to move to Europe basically to be able to make a sustainable career. Now, at the moment she is in Germany at the invitation of a manager which was referred to her, an opera manager, which was referred to her by a very important person in opera who heard her in Cape Town. And but obviously she needs to go and meet the manager, sing to the agent, and do all of that. And this, of course, costs a lot of money, which we have funded privately. And I think any assistance would be appreciated. I must also perhaps mention at this stage, and I don't know if I'm now preempting this, you could tell me if I am, but Leah is also what is called an ambassador for peace, opera ambassador for peace. She was chosen out of, on audition, of many people from all over the world and invited to Rome, where the first opera for peace was held. This is done by a woman called Lagousière, who is a French lady, or she's married to a Frenchman, and was head of the Paris Opera, and is now running Opera for Peace. Now this is the little interesting story which I'm jumping to maybe. She is actually originally a South African, and her father is a Jewish guy who helped Nelson Mandela escape across the Botswana border to get away at one stage during the struggle. So there's our little connection with Nelson Mandela. Perhaps another connection is I had some students, tenors, who performed for Nelson Mandela. Mangosuthu Buthelezi was there, even Evie de Klerk was there at that stage. So yes, opera opens up doors to meet very interesting people, and it's a privilege to do so. But it is a bit of a struggle in this country at the stage. So many of our people, I have many students who are singing internationally, because so what you're basically doing is you're training people for an export market, basically. But that costs a lot of money, and so any help would be appreciated. Yes, so if you'd like to share this video, forward it on many platforms, you may do so, and it will help getting the message out there, not only about opera and about Leah, but also about the benefits of weight training, because for singers, but also for people in general. I think people need to take back their lives by taking back their bodies.